Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Conant Show 39. 39 weeks we've been doing this here. And as always, I'd like to thank Paula Gloria Barton for teching and helping make this a professional as can be. And tonight we have a special show. I wouldn't call it an emergency broadcast, but it kind of is, because this really does impact our community in a big way. It seems as though there's some proprietary action going on with our police department here and the using of it. So my guest tonight is Joe Barton, and we have a letter to the editor from the Woodstock Times to be read to you to fill you in with some of this action, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe. So Joe, why are you here?
Well, I'm here because Bill McKenna, the town supervisor, who personally does not like me, is using the Woodstock police to harass me. I am a decorated, disabled veteran, and I've been selling on the green, which I have a license by the state and by Ulster County to do. And for those of you who may not know, veterans can get a license to sell on any public walkway or street here in New York, and that's a law here in New York. And actually, I also think it's a federal law that protects veterans' rights to be able to vend on the streets. Now, Bill McKenna, who doesn't like me, who has a personal thing against me, came up to me when I was on the green and challenged me about selling on the green. And I told Bill McKenna, I have a license. I'm a veteran, disabled veteran, and I have a license to be able to sell on any public street in New York State, and also in for the county of Ulster. And he scowled and walked away and didn't like it. Then a police officer showed up, walked over and talked to Bill McKenna. And then after talking to Bill McKenna, the police officer came over to me and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm vending, and I have a license. I'm a disabled veteran, and I have a license to sell on the streets of New York, which for 40 years I've seen veterans sell on that green on numerous occasions and not be harassed. Then he said to me, the police officer said to me, I know, Bill McKenna told me. So if Bill McKenna told him that I have a license, that I'm a veteran, why did that police officer come over again and harass me? Then we had a rainy weekend, and I wasn't able to sell. And I went back the next weekend and was selling on the green. And Bill McKenna rode by in his van and gave me all kinds of dirty looks, which he does every time he rides by. And then another police officer came up to me and told me and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm a veteran, and I have a right to sell on the green, and you're harassing me. You know, I've told the other police officer that I'm a veteran, and this is harassment. And then he said, you have to get permission. You have to get permission from the town. And I said, I don't have to get permission from the town. I have a license by the state and by the county of Ulster, and I can sell any place on the streets of New York. And he said, well, we got a complaint. And I said, well, if you have a complaint, I want a written, sworn statement. I have a right to face my accuser. And if you don't have a written, sworn statement by someone accusing me of doing harm or wrong, then this is harassment. And he said, come down to the station and talk. I said, who is this person? And then he said, come down to the station and we'll give you the name of the person, right? And then I said, I'm not going to take down my jewelry. I'm selling here on the green. This is all handmade jewelry. And I said, I'll send Paula down. Well, Paula went down to find out the name of the person who supposedly complained. And the police officer told Paula, the police officer directly lied to Paula and said the complaint came from someone from the church, right? And how I know that the police officer lied to Paula is I called Clayton Keefe, the chief of police here, and told him about the 2 harassments of the police harassing me, right? And Clayton Keefe told Paula that the person who complained was Bill McKenna, and what was the other guy's name again, Paula?
Jeff Moran.
Jeff Moran. So we have 2 towns, one sitting town supervisor and an ex-town supervisor choosing to harass me and using the police to do it. So the second police officer actually lied and said, oh, it was the church, when Clayton Keefe told Paula that it was actually Bill McKenna. Now, Bill McKenna has way overstepped his authority as town supervisor. He's using his position as town supervisor to get people he don't like, you know. And I would like Paula to read a letter that was in the Woodstock Times just to show you the character of this guy. And we definitely don't. Oh, you have it there? Oh, you want to read it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. I just at first I thought maybe you want to hold up the picture of Arbor Day. That's when this started, April 28th. I'll zoom in.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you gonna go to that camera?
Yeah. So that was the first time.
This was Arbor Day when
April 28th.
When they were doing a photo shoot on the green. That this is our local town board, the local cabal here, all get together for this photo shoot. And that was the day that Bill McKenna harassed me on the green and tried to... Now, other veterans have sold on the green. In fact, there was another veteran standing right next to me selling, and no one said anything to him about him selling on the green. So I have been specifically targeted by Bill McKenna, and he's using the Woodstock police to harass me. Now, for those of you people who wave your flags every 4th of July and say, I support veterans, I'm a veteran, and I have a license to sell on the green, and I am being harassed by Bill McKenna, and he's using the Woodstock police to harass me. Now, would you want to read this letter?
I do, but before I do that, I'd like to share with the audience what you sell. You sell the jewelry that you make.
Right.
So it's not like, this is an artisan here as well as a veteran. And Joe's jewelry is quite beautiful. I've seen it. I'm particularly taken with his handmade silver work, but he doesn't bring that out so much. It's really awesome stuff. So this is the Woodstock Colony of the Arts here, where we're supposed to be supporting the artists and arts and our veterans as well. So I just wanted to put that out on the table here, that Joe is not vending merchandise that was made in China or from a store somewhere. Anyway, so. Moving right along, this is a letter in June 1st, 2017, Woodstock Times, a letter to the editor titled Unbecoming Behavior. And this is by Jan Halaska from Lake Hill. My first and only encounter with the acting supervisor, Bill McKenna, was quite unpleasant. As he was headed to my neighbor's house in Lake Hill, Mr. McKenna claimed the driveway was blocked by my vehicles, even though there was enough room to maneuver a semi. He started to scream and proclaimed that he had Woodstock cops in his back pocket. He also mentioned that he had a big brother who could take care of me. I guess this was supposed to scare me. However, what scares me the most is that this person runs the town of Woodstock and is running for the permanent position as the Woodstock town supervisor. I believe Mr. McKenna should be examined by psychologists, perhaps check into a nut house, or at the least drop his candidacy. This town does not need and cannot afford an irrational, short-tempered, and out-of-control supervisor. Later that week, I filed a complaint with the Woodstock Police Department, which recommended I also file a report with the state police. I guess Mr. McKenna doesn't have the cops in his back pocket. Jan Halaska, Lake Hill.
And I'd like to jump in again on that. Actually, Jan McKenna is wrong. Bill McKenna does have the Woodstock police in his back pocket. The fact that the first time when he challenged me, a police officer came and talked to him before that police officer came and harassed me, and then told me that he knew that I had a license because Bill McKenna told him. So if he knew that I had a veteran's license, and Bill McKenna told him that I had a veteran's license, why did he challenge me? And then the second police officer comes and again challenges me and lies to me and Paula, or lies to Paula and saying someone from the church complained. And then Clayton Keefe tells Paula on the telephone today that no, actually it was Bill McKenna and Moran who complained about me selling on the green. Now, other veterans have sold on the green, and I've been here for 40 years in this town, and I've seen numerous veterans sell on the green and not be harassed. So Bill McKenna is using his position as town supervisor to get the Woodstock police to harass me. So this woman was wrong when she said, I guess Bill McKenna don't have the Woodstock police in his back pocket. Bill McKenna does have the Woodstock police in his back pocket, or at least because he, as town supervisor, controls their paychecks. He's got them where they're harassing people for him, for his personal reasons. On that, I really have nothing more to say, except that if this town votes this guy in, he's only acting supervisor because Jeremy died. And if he's acting this way as acting supervisor, God help this town if he gets elected and actually has real official capacity as town supervisor. I ask everyone in this town, do not vote for Bill McKenna. He abuses his position as town supervisor, and he's using the Woodstock police to harass a disabled veteran.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I had quite a long conversation with Clayton Keefe today, and I think we ended on a very good note. Clayton was really, really wanting to be the mediator. He doesn't want to have a conflict come down. And it really came down to me saying, you don't take orders from the supervisor, do you? And he said, of course I don't take orders from the supervisor. So I said, it's not like you're in the back pockets of the supervisor's office. And he said, no. And prior to that, though, we had a long conversation going back and forth about whether there was another place that you could find Joe to vend. And I said, look, I can't speak for my husband, but I don't think that, it's the principle of this. And also we're seniors, we're elders in the community, so we don't want to be throwing away, we're not looking for big swimming pools and stretch limousines and things like that. But we're looking for a life well lived and to be doing the right thing. And I felt that at the end, because of holding my ground, again, I never spoke on your behalf, Joe. I just said, as his wife and knowing who he is and knowing what we've been doing together, I don't think that this will be acceptable, that other people other veterans have sold on the green, and now all of a sudden Joe is being picked on. And also when it came up about the church owning it, I said I'm more than happy to bring this up with the church, that the police, by law, should have a signed complaint. So if anything goes wrong with the case, the onus goes on the party who started the action. In this case, it would be Jeff Moran or Bill McKenna. But if they're agents for the church, I said, at first I thought Jeff Moran was Maurer, who owns the flea market. I said, Maurer's being harmed because he's not getting $25 for a vending booth? And then Clayton corrected me. It was another guy, Jeff Moran, who I think was a Republican. Is he a Republican when he was the supervisor?
I don't know.
We don't know that.
I don't know.
Maybe it doesn't make a difference. But I said, okay, so how could Bill McKenna be harmed by some jewelry that Joe made himself and he's selling? And then Clayton said, well, it's not about a party being harmed. He said it's about carrying out the law and the rules. And he cited some agreement in 1999, which I said I'd like to pick a copy up tomorrow on my way to Kevin Cahill speaking at the public library, or his staff coming to hear what grievances there are. And Clayton said that he wasn't going to be in tomorrow, and he didn't seem to want to leave me a copy of that. I'm pretty sure all of our conversations are recorded and then probably listened to by attorneys, and then he's told his next moves or what he's supposed to carry out. And he wanted the mission as peacemaker, and I very much want the mission as peacemaker. I think if we want to bring a message of world peace throughout the world, we should certainly be peaceful and be able to communicate within our own community. So I would like to think that I left Clayton empowered. You see what I'm saying? That
yeah.
It's up to us to say whether you will be there on the green or not.
Well, and
it's up to us to face whoever's being harmed. Is the church being harmed because church property is going down in value, or people think less of the church because of veterans selling their own handmade jewelry? You know, you have to find a harmed party.
Well, I intend to sell on the green, you know, and you say, be peacemakers. Does that mean that I should give up my rights because Bill McKenna wants to overassert his authority and use his position as town supervisor to harass me? You know, many other veterans have sold on the green, and nobody has ever harassed them.
And they still do.
And they still do.
I want to hear a little bit more. Did you get any information on the nature of the agreement from 1999?
You know, it said things like no overnight sleeping, and you know, it didn't sound like anything Joe was doing. And he definitely was distraught and concerned.
Now, this agreement, is it an ordinance? Was it legislatively enacted?
Well, of course, that's what I said. You know, your policies don't affect people who are claiming their rights, men and women who are claiming their rights. And I said, I can't speak on behalf of my husband, but I don't think this sounds like something that Joe would go along with, because he and other people have, you know, risked their lives for, you know, an understanding about, you know, fighting for a country that has due process. So I said, that doesn't pertain to us. You can carry out those rules for people in your corporation who've agreed to those rules, but if the Woodstock police is in the back pocket of the town, then there should be agreements that give evidence to that. Not that you just shoot your mouth off and you bully people and you say you've got a big brother who can
take care of it.
Can take care of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I intend to assert my rights, and I don't intend to back down on this. I'm going to sell on the green, and if they arrest me, well, I guess we'll have to go to court on this, you know. But if there are any other veterans in this town of Woodstock, I really could use some support. Us veterans should stick together, you know, and I would appreciate other veterans speak up on this issue, because many veterans have sold on that green, and it should be the right. We are licensed. Any veteran can go down to Ulster County and get a license, licensed by the state and the county, to sell on the streets of New York. You know, I served my country. I fought in Vietnam. I got decorated for actions in Vietnam, and I don't intend to take this from someone like Bill McKenna, who probably never served in the military, and I'm not going to allow him to harass me or any other veteran that might assert their rights. So I intend to sell on the green on any nice day that the sun is shining. I'm not going to go out there on rainy days, of course, but I intend to challenge Bill McKenna and Jeff Moran for harassing a veteran.
You know, yeah, you have a thought?
Oh, just if we could make the discussion wider about why a veteran has these rights, and that, you know, you're a military man's son. You know,
well,
I think the idea is
I was going to expand the conversation as well, in keeping with that thought. You know, as I'm listening to Joe's story, and I myself and my partner are still embroiled with a really horribly wrong situation that's going on in Ulster County, specifically in the Saugerties Justice Court. And now a civil action is also brewing in a Poughkeepsie court, Superior Court. The thing is, you know, Paula, you've brought this up before in terms of it appears that there's some people are more equal than others, and the way you put that is that some of us have you know, more rights than others. How did you put it?
You're guilty until proven rich.
Well, there's that too. That's where, you know, power and influence and money can buy influence.
But the danger of that is whoever can pay for the biggest army wins, and then you've got a world of war, and that's what civilization and law is supposed to mitigate.
Right.
At the very least.
Well, two classes of people, I guess: the slaves and then the slave herders. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
So in what I'm seeing here is, you know, here's kind of an example of they call it TI, which is targeted individuals, and it expresses itself in a lot of different ways. And if you're an individual who, say, for example, has an interest in the environment, and that interest in protecting the environment is counter to the interest of, say, you know, a big corporation like General Electric, that likes to dump PCBs next to the Hudson River because it's easier to put it in a sludge pond than it is to process it or deal with it or store it. You know, this kind of thing. So you know, a person's life can be made quite difficult when opportunities shut down, doors close in your face, or you find yourself getting an inordinate number of traffic tickets, or any number of subtle harassments that don't necessarily obvious dot connecting, if you know what I'm saying. You know, these kind of harassments can appear all random, and really they're not. So I guess what I'm thinking here is, you know, Joe enlisted at the age of 17.
Yeah.
Which is about as young as you can enlist.
Yeah.
And served his tour, served his time in the military, Navy, and where does our community see itself in terms of our veterans? You know, I know one of the big issues I see all coming up with a lot of my veteran friends on Facebook, for example, is medical care and other guarantees or
education,
agreements that the government makes with people who are veterans, and the oversight is lacking. A lot of the hospitals are being shut down. There seems to be less emphasis on the aftercare psychologically as well as physically for our veterans, and it's like, to me, it's like just a real slap in the face for a guy who's trying to make an extra buck because his fixed income isn't enough to float the boat, to be harassed by the town supervisor vis-a-vis the police. I mean, it's really kind of disappointing for me, because I also see myself as a peacemaker, and I've stepped into public access in the studio here, really with kind of a deer in the headlights, babe in the woods situation. I don't know the players, and the longer I stay and produce shows, the more I'm finding there seems to be a chain of command with yet another chain of command that we never get to see, meet, or hear, or question. And that's called transparency, or the lack of it. And that's kind of where I'm concerned, really, about transparency of government, and who is responsible, who are the actual parties of interest, the principals and parties of interest. And ultimately, all of you on the other side of the camera here are also parties of interest, and I feel that there is a real desire to diminish and even abolish our public access as we know it, because the politicians perhaps don't like the exposure that they can get here, or the policies that can be exposed here. But but that is my concern, though, is we all are right now, all of us are harmed parties because of some of the decisions that are being made that we don't really have any proper information about. No notice to the public.
Like chemtrails?
Well, that's certainly a red herring, but more specifically, boots on the ground kind of thing that we can actually talk about and deal with that's acknowledged is the Wi-Fi issue, the radionics, the toxicity of it, and the known harm that it does do to living tissue, to living flesh and blood tissue. And the more I think about it, the more concerned I am that the decision to roll out this 5G network and really aggressively power up radiotronic frequencies that impact our psychology and our health, we are harmed parties. And it's not a theory, it's not conspiracy. It is a conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy theory. These are facts. This is not disputable. It's irrefutable fact about the toxicity of these frequencies that are being negotiated with our towns and our town boards. Yeah, Paula.
I just want to underscore what you say about a fact. I took about 20 minutes to carefully read at the end of one of these 5G things about all of the different corporations whose lawyers had them disclose to investors that this technology, they couldn't guarantee that their investment would be profitable because of the potential for lawsuits. I went through each one as the different corporations, and it was all a variation of the same language.
And I want to jump in on this too. I don't know how many of you people out there know all the insurance companies have signed off on this. They all refuse to insure all these corporations that want to put this 5G in. So if the insurance companies refuse to insure these companies because they know that there's going to be many, many lawsuits of people's health who've been hurt by this 5G. And one of the important things that's happening, in order for this 5G to come into this community, they have to get the local town politicians to okay it, you know? And Bill McKenna and this town board, all they ever do is think about revenue. If this corporation offers them a little bit of money, not necessarily in their personal pockets, but, oh, we will give some money to the town for your budget so you can spend it on whatever you want to spend it on, they're going to sell out this community, you know. And that's one of the reasons that Bill McKenna don't like me, because I've pointed out on numerous shows and tried to protect this community against the flim-flams of this local town board. If they allow 5G to come in, it's going to do harm to every person in this community. These are microwaves that are military-grade microwaves. They can be used as weapons, and they're going to be all over this community. But they have to have this local town board to sign off on it, to allow it to happen. All you people out there should tell this local town board, we do not want 5G in Woodstock. And speaking up like I'm doing right now against this town board is why I've been targeted by Bill McKenna and Jeff Moran, and why they're using the Woodstock police to harass me. You want to add some more?
Well, yeah. I want to kind of emphasize the toxicity. You know, the Steve Romine has done a fabulous amount of research, and he's pulled up so much scientific and medical evidence and studies and stuff, and he's piled them into his lawsuit against Central Hudson for a number of issues that he has there. But most importantly is you know, the lack of information and the lack of caring. You know, one of the things that happened here at the studio is somebody, we don't know who, unplugged the Wi-Fi. And, you know, and it's been made clear that if not unanimously...
Excuse me, I don't think anybody unplugged the Wi-Fi. I think
well, that's what Bill McKenna barked at
me. He insinuated it, and I think he used that as a directive, probably schooled or tutored by lawyers, as a way to give up jurisdiction, so that we have now been informed that there's Wi-Fi in the studio when Jesse Jones told us there was no Wi-Fi, right, Joe? He told.
Now, the other part of this is the excuse for the Wi-Fi and to keep the Wi-Fi on, so on and so forth, was because for the benefit of the senior citizens.
Right.
And I'm not quite sure, you know, there's nobody else in the building right now but us here in the studio, what senior citizens we're talking about, other than those of us here. And we don't, you know, the producers board was unanimous, I believe, or maybe -1.
Oh no, it was unanimous.
Unanimous that we wanted a Wi-Fi free.
Even Fanny.
Even Fanny, we want and still want a Wi-Fi free work environment in the studio here. And of course, you know, if you have an emitter on the other side of the building, it still affects the whole building because it has. The field that it broadcasts could be as much as a quarter mile away. It depends on how strong the signal is. I know this because I'm over at the movie theater and I have a laptop, and my laptop is Wi-Fi friendly, and I have 12 different Wi-Fi services that come up, and they're from across the street and down the block, and there you can see the different signal strengths and such, but I only use the in-house one. And So we're already saturating our local atmosphere with a lot of radio frequencies. And
It's microwave.
yeah, and microwaves are radio frequencies. They're,
Right.
And you know, radioactivity is not much different in the sense that, you know, when you have a radioactive element, the electrons have unstable orbits, and that's what creates, you know, the rays that come off, the radiation. So when you're talking Wi-Fi, you're being irradiated, and you're being irradiated within a specific bandwidth, bandwidth, that's the word, frequency range.
No, I agree with what you're saying, because on the green, when I had my laptop there, I could see all the signals coming through. I always thought it was a public place. But now that we find out it's owned by the church, it seems as though if the church doesn't clean up all that Wi-Fi, the church could be sued. Because if that's the location where people are being irradiated, that's why this is a time that we need to keep our heads really cool. I told that to Clayton. I said, let's be very cool-headed about this. Let's assemble all the data, get the agreement. Let's look at this agreement of 1999 with the church and the town and whatever these rules are that he feels that he's obliged to carry out. He goes, you know, don't put me in this position, you know, and I said, I just can't see. I can't speak for my husband, but I just can't see that he'd go for it.
You didn't put him in any position, Paula, and neither did Joe.
Well, he wanted me to be a nice, docile wife that will encourage my husband, you know, don't take on this, please don't fight, because I am about nonviolent communication. But nonviolent communication is about neither submitting nor rebelling. It's taking it to a whole nother level, and the whole other level here is Clayton Keefe is a man himself that can make moral decisions. So if you lay out the law, either his boss is the town of Woodstock or it isn't. Who is he taking orders from? And what Joe and I always say, we only take orders from the divine. Right, Joe?
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's outrageous that even, you know, I personally like Clayton Keefe. You know, I think we actually have a very good chief of police here. He has kept his police. The Woodstock police are not bullies. But right now, Bill McKenna is using them as bullies to harass me. That I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Clayton Keefe, you know. Unfortunately, he's in the middle between me and Bill McKenna, and there shouldn't even be a middle. If Bill McKenna didn't start this, I would be selling on the green my handmade jewelry like any other veteran who's sold on that green, and many veterans have sold on that green. I've been here 40 years, and I've seen numerous veterans sell on that green. And as far as what you were saying about the church, the part of the green that I sell on isn't part of the church property. The town... The church owns only part of that green. The other part, the larger part, not the thin part that comes down to a point, is actually public property. And I have a license to be able to sell on public property, you know. And even if the church leases the green to the town, then that still makes it public property. The taxpayers' money is being used to lease that. So as a taxpayer, I have a right to be on public. It becomes public property when it's being leased to the town. So I have a license to sell on public property. As does any veteran. And I would stand with any veteran in this same situation. If Bill McKenna was harassing any veteran for selling on that green, I would stand with him. So that's what I have to say about that.
Now, George, you're always talking about transparency. What Joe just said about this church and which part is private and whatever, This seems as though if it does go to court, that's where you bring out all the paperwork and you look at it. What are the agreements? Does the church lease it? Is it public? Is it private? But if it's private, let me tell you, that opens up a whole nother can of worms with this Wi-Fi stuff, because you find out who is the owner of what is causing the harm. If you were saying that the 5G is going to be putting antennas on every single telephone pole, who owns those telephone poles? That seems that's going to be liability. That, you know, the insurance companies aren't paying for it. They've disclosed that they're not going to pay for it.
Well, another very important issue to discuss here is the air itself. There's these Agenda 21 UN mandated rules that are trying to be are being foisted upon local government to accept these regulations. Among those is the control of water. You know, you're not allowed to put rain barrels out and collect your own water. I know people who do it, but you know, on the books, you're not allowed to. You're also not allowed to grow your own food for consumption because it's not FDA approved. Now, whether they enforce it or not is another matter. You know, there's so many battle fronts here against the rightful, against the rights
of the people,
of humanity to feed and water and warm itself. And water, you know, it's outrageous that the water as rain is now owned, theoretically, by, you know, corporate interests.
That's an unconscionable contract, right, Joe? That can be challenged.
Yeah. Oh, I would challenge that.
Well, these are laws on the books. You know, they're fraudulent laws. They're bad laws. But they incrementally start enforcing them as people get more accustomed to the ideas.
So it gets down to consent.
They violate inalienable rights, you know, and you know they violate inalienable rights, and everyone should challenge them on that. You know, to say that you can't grow your own garden and eat your own food. Like, who came up with this?
Well, you know, the FDA and Monsanto and other corporate giants. You know, if you control, you know, my father used to say that an army runs on its stomach, and so does a civilization. So does a town. So does a family. We all, you know, are subject to the laws of nature, and one of them is that we need to eat. And without eating, you starve, and then you get sick and die. It's just that simple. So what we're talking about is the restriction of the ability to feed oneself outside of buying your food, your kibbles and bits, from Walmart. I mean, that's kind of where it's all really going. It's one big corporate feedlot, and we are the cattle in this scenario.
Company store.
The company store, but it's almost even worse than the company store. We now are part of the. You know, we are a controlled species, just like, you know, farm animals in a feedlot.
Yeah, I remember now what I wanted to say, or what you were referencing. It had to do with Rudy, the firefighter, the 9/11 firefighter, talking about these foundations that have, you know, when you get $1 million account and you'd go to advertise, you go to one of these foundations, they have a lot of data. And what they say is, we don't sell products, we sell people. And so that's what it's boiling down to, is being sold. We're the product.
Well,
we're the product, and our value is according to what we produce. So if we've been producing under fraudulent contracts, unconscionable contracts, like you can't collect water, you know, how could that be justified? Only if you consent to being part of that corporation, which unfortunately registering to vote is all about. You put your signature on on the dotted line.
Yeah, well, we're only if we accept it can they do this to us. And
Right.
I don't accept it. And no one out there, none of you people out there should accept it. You know, if we don't stand up for our rights, don't expect any politician to stand up for your rights. You have to stand up for your own rights. And on that,
And
I'm willing to stand up for my rights against Bill McKenna and this harassment.
And we should take care of each other. Like you said, you would appreciate support from veterans. I'd like to also say the Woodstock police should be supported too, to do the right thing. You know, Clayton Keefe can stand up for his rights. He has a right not to violate people for the sake of a corporate policy.
Actually, Clayton Keefe and the Woodstock police have more than a right. That they swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and to protect and defend the Constitution of the state of New York. And if they're being told to violate someone's rights, it's their duty to say no. It's their duty to stand up.
That's right.
And say, no, I will not violate my oath to protect and defend the Constitution. And by you using your authority, Bill McKenna, to make me harass some citizen some veteran who's not doing any harm to anyone, violates my oath. Clayton Keith, you and the Woodstock police swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and I expect you to do just that.
Instead of acting on your authority, I would say misplaced authority. Bill McKenna is acting on misplaced authority to command the chief of police to do something that we don't see any paperwork
to harass
that he has the authority to do. Yeah.
He's using the Woodstock police to harass me, you know, and the Woodstock police swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, not to harass for politicians. It's time for them to honor their oath. That's what I ask of the Woodstock police. Honor your oath. You swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and to use, for this town supervisor to use his authority, his misplaced authority, to be a bully. It's not your job under your oath to bully citizens who are not harming anyone.
Do you have any thoughts, George? What would your father, the battlefield general, say?
Well, I'm thinking about you know, how interrelated all of these various court cases that we're all embroiled with. You know, everyone in this room has stuff going on, and so do our friends. And it makes me think about, again, I'm going back to that two classes of people. And you know, the design of our constitutions, the New York State one is apparently a very strong one, stronger than our federal one in some respects, so I understand.
Yes.
Is specifically to keep in check and provide remedy for tyranny. Tyranny is a real thing, and it rears its ugly head at every opportunity. That's the nature of tyranny. And but I'm thinking, you know, the situation that I'm dealing with my partner is, you know, a person has made a sworn complaint, and then the next day robs my partner in our house. And now, 20 months later, we're out $20,000 of, you know, artworks, jewelry, precious mementos from the past,
Lawyers' fees,
and lawyers' fees, lost work, and such and so on. And the DA Lauren Swan, the ADA Lauren Swan, has made it clear that she's not going to prosecute or arrest or challenge the accuser after all of the fraud is exposed, if it comes to that. So they're already positioned themselves to ignore us further, because, you know, we've been fighting these bogus charges really quite aggressively, and the fraud here is staggering amounts of fraud. And, you know, the police were duped into it. And because the accuser made a complaint first, when we were bringing, hey, we were robbed, you know, well, we're not taking your complaint. So we've been denied due process, inability
equal protection
to get our complaint heard or received in any official capacity. And the end result is now 20 months later is the prosecutor has no evidence. There's no chain of custody of evidence. And they really have come up against a problem, because to simply drop the charges opens us up for false arrest and a lot of other things that have gone wrong here. So that's what, you know, I'm looking at, and you know, wouldn't it just be simpler to, you know, go after the real criminal here? But apparently, you know, having a lot of money keeps politicians and judicial machinery working obtusely, and
enforcement too,
and enforcement as well. So, you know, I feel like Joe, like we've been targeted. We're supposed to just take whatever they give us, and we're not. We're fighting back, and we're, you know, a big learning curve. And all I can say is that I think, in a way, this has been kind of a good thing, because it's bringing to the public consciousness what we're all subjected to here, you know, in our communities, with the apparatus of police and state and judicial machinery.
And we're the canaries in the shaft. The mine shaft.
And I meditate a lot about, you know, we've got some serious harm going on to our communities now. I want to revisit the thought about the Wi-Fi and the excuse that it was, you know, harming the elderly by turning off the Wi-Fi. Apparently nobody turned off the Wi-Fi. It didn't get turned off, so maybe this is just a ploy for establishing jurisdiction in this building from the supervisor's office. That may well be. But let's talk about that for a second, because the elderly are like children, and in a lot of these studies are showing that children in schools with lots of Wi-Fi radiation are suffering all kinds of emotional troubles, and health issues are cropping up. I know that the cell phones, I'm not going to use brands, but cell phones in general, a lot of tumors are occurring in people's brains right behind the ear. This kind of thing. Autism is well, off the charts. It's ridiculous. It's never been this bad, and I think, you know, there's a lot of reasons for that. And you know, for us to just sit on our hands and say, well, you know, this is the new way of the future, let's just, you know, hope for the best that I won't get sick. You know, I mean, I have concerns of my own right now that I think are related to the exposure to Wi-Fi. But elderly are like children. They are vulnerable too. And when you're a developing human being as a child, that's a lot of growth happening and a lot of cell division and things like this. So the Wi-Fi can get in there, and much like cancer, or it may even cause cancer or some other aberration in the normal development of cells. In the elderly, their resistance and their strength to heal is diminished with age. That's a function of age, and you have the same problem with the Wi-Fi just accelerating things. And I feel for one of our local judges here, who seems to be suffering from Wi-Fi and the smart meter or the broadcast meters that are used by Central Hudson, and Central Hudson won't remove it. Right. And it seems, I'm detecting Parkinson's in him, and it's not fun. This is not cool. So this affects everybody, whether you're in government or you're in the law enforcement. Hey, law enforcement guys who had the handheld radar for getting speeding tickets on people. They were keeping them on their laps, and they were getting all kinds of cancers in the groin and stuff like that. I mean, we're being subjected to some very dangerous, but it's invisible. And that's where they are counting on ignorance, because it's not a broken arm, it's not somebody hitting you with a bat, but everybody, I am telling you, we are all being hit with a bat that's invisible, and it's called Wi-Fi.
Right. Let me jump in for a second on that. And you know what? It's time for this community. We all have to wake up and say, we can't be saying it's somebody else's problem. It don't affect me. We all have to stick together. If it's somebody else's problem, make it your problem, because we are all human beings, and as human beings, we have to stand together. We all have to stick up for each other. It's time for us to stand united as a people for the right thing. I just wanted to add that to what George was saying.
Joe, while you're saying all of that, Kevin Modest talks about that often, that we have to take care of each other. He's the Wi-Fi expert that spoke to a couple of producers in Manhattan, and he gave such a compelling argument that Joe decided not to sleep next to the cell phone at night. You want to tell people about that?
No, that's not important.
You're sleeping, as your wife, let me tell you, you're sleeping better. So these devices, we need to share this information with each other and encourage each other to do the best we can.
There's a study that Steve Romine shared some information with me about, and that is specifically about sleep and waking differences in our physiology. When we are awake, we are much more, our bodies are much more alert cellularly. Your body is more alert to defend itself against anything. It could be viruses, it could be bacteria, it could be bears, it could be, falling objects, and it can be
Bill
Wi-Fi.
McKenna's.
It could be, Bill McKenna's, or any number of things, including cosmic rays and radio waves and our Wi-Fi broadcast. So when you're in your waking state, you're keyed up. Your own personal energy field, which is what our bodies emit. We emit energy fields, tends to fight off to some degree, or even a large degree, these Wi-Fi broadcasts. When you're asleep, you go into a completely different state, and much like a child or an elder, you become vulnerable. And so your cellular, they often say, when you sleep, you do a lot of healing. Your wounds start healing, and things heal when you sleep. Well, that gets all interrupted by these Wi-Fi broadcasts. So do the research yourself, folks, and it doesn't matter what class you are. We really do need to pull together and help each other and educate each other, and stop being passive victims of real serious harm that's not only being done to us now, but exponentially with each passing week and month and year and development of this technology. And so we're wrapping it up. Any last thoughts, Paul, Joe?
Joe?
No, other than I wish we the people have to really stick together. We have to stand together and fight off this assault on our rights. And everything that George was saying, the Wi-Fi, this 5G is an assault on our rights to be healthy. And we need to stick together.
They're here. So on that note, folks, I'm going to close the show. Thank you for watching, and I'd like to thank the town for providing the facility here, and that I hope the town recognizes that we also bring something to the table too in terms of the public access, education, and government channel that we're fighting for all of us. So let's let's have a growth and development and a positive view of the future and work together. And thank you for watching. This is Woodstock TV, and tune in again, folks.